Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Sunday, about 1 o'clock in the PM here, Sunday, July 13th, 2025. What do we got for the latest earthquake activity here on this afternoon? Looks like a one-pointer there across California, also a four-pointer, and a little swarm going on there outside of Ridgecrest. It's going to be this earthquake right up here. We'll get to that in just a second. Got a little battle going on here between the east and the western area here of the Pacific Plate. Japan has ramped up in terms of earthquake activity this morning. A number of fives and a number of fours. And if we bring up the Japan Meteorological Agency website here, you'll see that roughly about, this began about 4 o'clock this morning or so with starting right here with a 2.8. We're looking at a good 15, maybe almost 20 earthquakes per hour during the 4, 5, 6 o'clock time period. A number of threes and twos, including a couple fours in there. Here's the 5 o'clock time period, very similar. Number of threes and twos, another 15 to 20 earthquakes. 6 o'clock time period, a little bit less. Got about 10 earthquakes or so there, including a number of threes and twos. And then it kind of mellowed out here to where we're at right now with the latest quake of 2.7. But things really ramped up here this morning with a decent amount of earthquake activity there across this area of Japan. And it's right over here across this region. We do have some interesting activity upstream here that is going to be along the plate boundary. But this is kind of in an odd location here because we really haven't had much earthquake activity up here around this region. So things look like, they're still continuing in terms of pressurization and the adjustment that's going on out here. It's definitely a very interesting earthquake just up in the subduction zone and away from this swarming area. There's some of that earthquake activity leading up to the Nankai Trough, which is a major subduction zone here that's capable of producing some megaquakes. And this is, in fact, the area that the Japan government there put out a megaquake warning for because of all the earthquake activity around it. They put that warning last year. We didn't see any megaquake activity, but here we are in 2025. We've got a huge swarm, and that earthquake activity is continuing to apply a lot of pressure down here across this area of the Nankai Trough. And as I stated there a few days ago when we were looking at a decent swarm there, this was about a week or so ago when the prophecy was supposed to happen here with a megaquake. It still might. I'm watching two different regions here, the Nankai Trough and also this subduction zone right here in between Japan and the Taiwan area. That's got some major potential there for big earthquake activity, but can't leave out the Izu Trench over here as well. So three distinct regions that I'm watching here for some movement. There's been no big quake activity out here associated with all this movement here. It's just been a bunch of fours and fives. The largest magnitude in that cluster is a 5.6. So it's just, it's an interesting earthquake swarm. And I tell you what, it definitely kicked up this morning about 4 o'clock or so. That's going to be my time when we're looking at 15 to 20 earthquakes per hour there in the area adjacency of the Tokara Islands, right around this region here. Some newer movement up north here as well this morning. Looks like that struck here prior to the intensifying swarm out here. That's that's a 4.6, 6 miles deep there along the Japan Trench, right at the subduction zone. So we'll just continue to watch that throughout the day today. Like I said, I feel it's a little battle here between which area is going to have a big earthquake. Something similar to what we've seen back in 2011 prior to the that big old 9-pointer over here across Japan. So California obviously been rocking and rolling out here. Let me bring up the other map here. This morning we did have another 4-pointer out here, this time north here around the Ridgecrest area. Well, north, I should say. It looks like it might be off of 395 around the southern Sierra Nevada fault zone. 4.0, 5 o'clock this morning, roughly about the same time that things were, really getting going over there across the western Pacific. There is a number of aftershocks in this event as well, following this event. Got 15 earthquakes following the 4-pointer. Let me bring up the map here. Yeah, it looks like it started to kick up about 5 o'clock this morning. There's a 4-pointer. Number of ones. And all this taking place there, intensifying roughly about the same time as the earthquake activity over in Japan. And you notice it died out roughly about the same time as the Japan earthquake activity is kind of dying off compared to, the incredible swarming that we were seeing out there. So interesting activity between this area here. Whether it's related or not, I think so. I look at these little signs here of time frame and when things hit, and all it takes is just a little adjustment to, it can have adverse effects either different way. I've seen things kick up. Like I said, I've seen things back in 2011 here when we had that 9-pointer. It really relieved strain out here across California and the West Coast in general. It moved a whole bunch of land over here, so that made some major adjustment, offset this area. I think that did prevent us from seeing a large earthquake at the time, but it almost feels like we're back in that similar situation here where we're swarming around Japan and California there, roughly swarming at the same time as when Japan's swarming. So we'll watch that closely. Over the last 30 days here, we've seen a number of elevated earthquakes here across California. This is the 2.5 model for the last 30 days. 119 earthquakes. That's a decent number and above average for, a 30-day period. Normally, it's not that much, but there's quite a bit there. 119, the largest going to be that 4.5 there across north of Death Valley out there. 4.3 southern end here of the San Andreas Fault near the Brawley seismic zone. That was a decent swarm as well. That had a number of earthquakes in there. 4.3 and a bunch of 3s and 2s. If we go to the all magnitudes here, you can see the swarm that was associated with that movement earlier. A few days ago. 102 earthquakes in itself here across just this region. That swarm has died off. Looks like the last earthquake there was a 1.2 from yesterday. So things interesting. Definitely watching it. There's that 4-pointer up here. No new earthquake activity. Now this Owens Valley rupture, 1872. That was a big earthquake back then. I don't think that's really associated with the activity right now. It looks more on the southern Sierra Nevada fault zone. The July 4th, July 5th sequence of events was down here across the Little Lake Fault in Ridgecrest. But this area is still obviously showing some increasing strain with this earthquake activity right now. A number of earthquakes here along the San Andreas Fault as well. This mainly on the creeping section. Got a bunch of ones out here. 11 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock this morning, 4 o'clock. The Parkfield section, pretty quiet still. But keep an eye on that. It ruptures in the 6.0 earthquake every 20 to 22 years. And the last one was 2004. The Bay Area, pretty quiet. Nothing going on there. This is the Clear Lake Volcanic Field hydrothermal plants there, creating some earthquakes. Some movement up into Northern California. The latest, a 2.1 here along the Coast Range. A couple more, at least one more earthquake here into the southern end of the Cascadia mega thrust area. It's 11 miles deep into that zone. That's been a hot spot of earthquake activity as well. Lots of movement up here along the southern end of the Cascadia. No big earthquake activity yet, but kind of keeping an eye on that. 1.1 earthquake there along the Mount Rainier area. That, I'll tell you what, that's been seeing a lot of swarming itself here. We're well over 500 earthquakes now, 532 earthquakes across this beautiful volcano. This last one, though, pretty shallow. It almost looks like it is getting a little bit shallower in terms of their earthquake swarm. 531 earthquakes being reported here by the PNSN network. A look here at the recorded seismograph station here. Does show, some earthquake activity there in the spikes. It is slowly dying out. Let's go ahead and check out the latest information here, see if they got a new update. This here shows from 7/12. Actually, it might be 7. Include today's events, but we're going down in terms of the number count of earthquakes per day. Far as the depth goes, this is the earthquake layout for days here on the bottom. The depth over here, up and down, and most of it's been roughly about sea level. which would put it at a mile or two below the surface, right? Because you have to account for the height of the peak of the summit. So this is just going to go with sea level. That's why sometimes you'll see negative 0.4 on the depth. That's just adjusting for the sea level, or the the peak of the mountain there. So there's some shallow ones there, negative. So that's going to be more up towards the summit. Most of it has been, again, a couple miles just below the summit area, which would make it sea level. So nothing, nothing major, like as far as any, I guess we can double check the GPS stations out here, see what we have. Because I always like to pay attention to that, because it's a weekend. I'm sure there's, seismologists and geologists watching this. But right now the volcano's still sitting at a green. No signs of anything outside the norm. These earthquake swarms they can happen. GPS station right here, down across the bottom, will probably work. And as you can see, there's February. I'm sure this goes up to the time period right now, because this is in months of, there's August 2024, and then it goes to February. So right now would be exactly where we're at. Yes, some upturn, but if you look here over the last few years, it's been very minor. And these meters, look at the range here, look at the amplitudes. This is 0 and then 0.005 meters. The most it goes up here is a 0.015 meters. That's just a fraction, of any type of movement, and it's nothing at all to be worried about. Just a decent earthquake swarm. It's interesting to document and watch it. Again, if I thought something crazy was going on up there, I'd go up there to observe and report. It's more than a few hours from me here. I live here in Northern California, but it's not the first time I've traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles to watch activity there. One earthquake in Yellowstone right now. I'm surprised they're reporting this 1.9. That's interesting there. Let's go take a look here at the Yellowstone overview real quick. Well, the 1.9 is just coming in. That's not going to be this earthquake. That's from last night. That's probably similar to 1.9. This one just came in at 1304, so just a short time ago. Nothing. I don't see anything big going on there across Yellowstone. Pretty quiet out there across that super volcano. Let's see what else we got here across the area. Texas, nothing new. Oil fields and earthquakes. That's what goes on every day out there. Around the New Madrid seismic zone, a little bit more serious, serious intraplate boundary or intraplate fault system. This area is very capable of producing some big earthquakes out here. Back in 1811 and 1812, they've seen a series of large 7.0 earthquakes, mid to upper sevens. And that will happen again. It's been well over 200 years now since we've seen any big movement. In the last 30 days, pretty minor. This is 13 earthquakes, roughly within that, the main area of the New Madrid seismic zone, and that's probably a little bit below average on a normal 30-day period for earthquake activity out here. The largest at 2.9. I've been looking at these maps for years and years and years, and they get earthquake activity out there. But that's these little ones just letting us, it's a little friendly reminder that that fault system is still very much building up some strain for the next big one out there across the New Madrid seismic zone. Eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet. Don't see anything major going on out there. Taking a look here at the global view of things. Let's see what we got here for new activity. New Zealand down here. Goodness. Still got quite a bit of activity. Even looks like some newer 4.0 earthquake, 4.5, just down here south of the Alpine Fault along the plate boundary. That Alpine Fault, got to watch that, because that does have a lot of potential here for some big earthquake activity, and it's a lot of time has passed here, lots and lots of time, and this is one of the definitely a feared fault system out here, along with the Hikurangi subduction zone and a number of other faults that sit out here across New Zealand. They ride the plate boundary, so a lot of movement up north recently and a lot of movement down south. Eventually this is going to adjust here in a big fashion, so just got to be prepared for that. Definitely showing a lot more activity out there in the last several weeks across New Zealand. Some deeper activity along the Tonga Trench. One earthquake finally filling in that little seismic gap zone here that we've been watching. This is an earthquake here from yesterday, so we're late last night, the 5.3 there near Vanuatu. Nothing, but that's about it. That's interesting here. So we may still see that fill in with that absence of earthquake activity. There's all the movement there across Japan, rocking and rolling there. Like I say, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock time period. There were 15 to 20 earthquakes per hour. So the swarm is continuing, but at a lower pace up to this hour. But the pressure is still on out here. Look at all that movement south here into the Philippines. Got a 5-pointer. Bunch of deep activity in this same area. Even some movement over here across the Andaman Sea region, a 5.2. So watch this area closely. Definitely, it's the crunch zone, but there's some bigger circles there on the globe today than what we've seen here in the last couple days. So watch that closely. Movement there kicking up. Alaska pretty quiet. A couple earthquakes out there in Hawaii. Let's see if we got anything major going on. Nothing new there to report. We will double check the Kilauea inflation chart here. I still think we're on tap here to see a return to an eruption status in a number of days. Now remember, one of these vents here is blocked. Fountains from the north vent. Okay, so the south vent is the one that's covered and blocked. So it'll be interesting to see how that north vent behaves from here on out. The inflation is still happening. We got a number of days before we get to a maximum pressurization of magma below the vents. And I don't think it's going to blow out that south vent. If anything, it's going to make the north vent more spectacular in terms of eruption once it does take place. Unless that gets blocked as well, well then, yeah, it's a whole different scenario. But we'll look at that if and when that happens. But ever since December of last year, it's been a rinse and repeat cycle up until this most recent episode where finally we got one blockage of the vent going on there. And it'll be interesting to watch and see how it develops there on our next eruption. Again, we got a couple days. What do we got? Some more earthquake activity down in Los Angeles, well, Southern California area. One in Los Angeles as well, 2.2 near the Yorba Linda area. That earthquake activity coming in here within just in the last few minutes here of this update video. So things are still kicking up out here. The pressure is on. Question is, play a game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It could be either or. I've also seen it here when things start to stir up on both sides of the Pacific plate that we get activity in the middle up here across Alaska. But right now, that's awfully quiet up here. So we'll just watch this, see how it goes today, folks. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. One little lonesome earthquake out there across the Mid-Atlantic Ridge of 4.7. South America and the Middle America Trench here. The Middle America Trench up here. South America area all look pretty cluttered, but that's typical on any given day. I don't see anything major going on there. Puerto Rico area a little bit more active with some 2s out there, but let's see what we got. Five earthquakes. Couple 3s out there around the Dominican Republic area. All right, let's check out space weather, shall we? Wow, man, we're back down into the B flare category. What happened? Well, let's take a look here. If you look on the solar flare chart, we've had a number of sunspot or flares out here associated with these new sunspots, crackling and sizzling, even with some M flare activity. But we've kind of mellowed out here since last night. Let's take a look at the magnetogram image here of the sunspots. This pretty much tells us, complexity in terms of magnetic complexity. And you want to see a whole bunch of intermixing here and close proximity of these colors. This one's splitting like crazy here. That's not really a good sign unless we get some further development here in the middle. So this sunspot here may be just about done with. This one's starting to get a split in it as well. But we'll watch that. Newer area back over here. We got this massive region, but that's fairly stable. There's not a whole lot of intermixing of any major colors there. And an area back over here across the southeastern quadrant of the sun. Man, boy, Hard to pick one here. I mean, I guess here we'd probably need to watch this area in terms of, which one might produce a decent flare. I mean, I think for now, a C flare is possible with all of these sunspots, but the M flare is probably limited there to 4140 and maybe 4139 here. The current flare threat shows a 50% chance for M flare. X flare, 5%. No major auroras there in the forecast for now, folks. Things pretty quiet there across the board. Let's take a look here at the next close approach asteroids here to the planet, see if there's anything of doom and gloom on the menu. That's all we need, right, for 2025. That's a pretty big one. Newly discovered one as well. 280-foot building size asteroid, but that's well over 4 million miles away. And, well, to be honest, everything else out there looks at a distance, and that's where we want to keep them, right? For the severe weather outlook here today, limited across the northeast and also down here across the desert of Arizona. 2% chance for some tornado activity out here in the green. Main threat today looks to be a little bit of wind out there, maybe some small hail out in the 5% zones, but not a huge severe weather day. Now, I know they're dealing with some more flooding down there in Texas. A lot of rain out there. These guys have been getting hammered back to back with a lot of rain, thunderstorms, and the ground is just soaking wet. They can't handle anymore, so that's why you get these super big flash floods. And I'm sure it's nice and green all over the place out there right now. It's a good time to visit, but the flooding out there is definitely crazy. There's all the flood watches going on. These are flood watch in the darker green. We do have some flood warnings in there as well around the Texas area. Guess where I'm at? I'm out here in the heat. Yeah, look at these temperatures. You guys think I'm joking when I say it gets up to 110 out here. It gets up there. That's our forecasted highs here. July 12th through the 14th. Yeah, what's the temperature right now? Currently 93 degrees out. Pretty humid, though. The rice fields around here, with them holding water, they tend to release a lot of moisture into the air. And, there's another earthquake coming in there to California. See, 3.1 up north this time. Things are on the move out here, folks. We're getting a big crunch going on. That 3.1 is outside of Tom's Place, south here of the Long Valley supervolcano. It's kind of up here in the mountains, though, so associated with the tectonic strain. But I tell you what, California's kicking up. We'll see how it plays out. I'm kind of curious to see if Japan has kicked back up with this activity. Last one was at 12:35, so kind of quiet out there for now. Main focus out here across the eastern Pacific, but something's coming. It definitely quite a bit of activity out here today, and not just today, but as you've seen here over the last several weeks, a lot going on around Japan. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later, folks. Stay cool. If you're out here like me in the heat, probably going to make it an inside day all day. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later on for the Sunday night update.